Disculpa, adiós. Buenas tardes.
Okay. Are you ready? Okay. Because I'm getting nervous. Okay. Hi, my name is Nelson Espinosa, and I'm a student at Howard Community College. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
My name is Maria Romano Schweitzer, and I am a teacher at Wild Lake High School, as well as a native-born Colombian from 1977.
Awesome. Just to hear more about the backstory of this project, we're just trying to interview somebody from the community to just hear their thoughts and opinions and ideas about the community, and just to know more about the history of it. How would you describe your role in the community today?
I am, like I stated, I'm a teacher at the high school level. I coach high school sports. I'm also a parent of 4 children who attend public and private schools in the county. And I also coach for rec league wrestling. And I do club volleyball, and I'm involved with the swim team, so I'm pretty involved.
Awesome. Have you participated in any community functions, and if so, what importance were they to you?
Well, as far as community, if we're talking about like athletics, yes, I've participated in the Columbia Swim Leagues for many years, run the concession stand. I've participated in various services in Howard County here and there, like service days. I've participated in community functions like down at the lakefront during the summers when they have their activities such as the music concerts or the movies. Centennial Park, when they have their summer concerts, I go over there. When they have their fairs and stuff, I go over there. There's a Korean festival that the Korean organization puts on every year. My sister-in-law is Korean, her parents are elders, so participate in the Korean organizations. When Columbia Association does their international days, I've gone to those. I mean, I've gone to many different functions, and I think it's benefited me really because I bring my kids, just showing my children that there's so much diversity and there's so much more than just, you know, who we are and where we come from and like what our heritage is, but learning that, you know, there's so many more different people out there, and you know, it's fun and interesting to learn about what's going on in the community and who we live with.
How has Columbia changed since you've been a member of the community?
Since I was born, let's see. Well, first of all, I remember when 29 and 108 were a 4-way intersection. I remember when Centennial Park didn't exist. We used to go over and play in the fields. I remember when Target and that whole area wasn't there. I remember Heckinger's, where I think Haverty's is now. A lot of construction has come up. I remember the old Howard Community College used to have a horse, some type of horse event, I think every spring or summer. So where the parking lot is now, they used to bring horses and do a big horse show right there. So there's been a lot of development. Also growing up, it was diverse, but not as diverse. I mean, Columbia was started, you know, based on the foundation, you know, the idea of James Rouse. He wanted people of different diverse backgrounds, you know, biracial couples. He wanted a place where they would come and be welcomed. So growing up, we had, there was a lot of diversity as far as if we look at black and white, and, you know, interracial couples. There were a lot of Jewish people, there were a lot of Catholics or Christians, but, you know, once we saw the immigration waves of the 80s from all of this distress that was going on in the Americas, we've seen more Latinos come into our community with all the construction in the city. and knocking down certain neighborhoods. We've seen an increase of people from Baltimore City come in. With the growth of the government, we've seen more people come into this area. So before, when people would come in because they wanted to be part of that diversity, I feel a lot of people now are just coming in because, you know, whether it's work, it's not the idea of what Columbia was, or they're coming in because they're being forced out of where they live for many different reasons. So there's been a shift of who lives in Columbia. Before, people used to come to Columbia and be in Columbia for what it stood for. Now it's more of a convenience. But I think that, you know, the building has changed, the people have changed, there's a lot more schools, a lot more sports. Oh my gosh, we didn't have all these sports. Like before, growing up, everybody played soccer. But now there's so many more fields. So I remember when lacrosse in the 80s, late 80s got started through here as lacrosse, so people started playing more lacrosse. But now athletics is a big thing. So kids are involved in lots of sports all the time. So because we have the facilities. So there's a lot more extracurricular activities and places for that as well. And the mall has changed. The mall used to be just like an L shape. I remember Friendly's used to be on the lower level. You can go and you can sit down, you could sit at the counter. You used to have, was it Woody's, Sears, and I don't know if it was JCPenney's, but it was just those. It was an L shape. There used to be 2 food courts, and now it's just boomed into like 3 wings, plus you have these big restaurants, and it's a lot bigger. And Kittamuckundy, Lake Kittamuckundy, the fountain, 4th of July weekend, they used to do a big parade along Jim Rouse Parkway, right there, 175, right there in downtown Columbia. There used to be the Columbia Fair in that parking lot where the Whole Foods is, because that building used to be the Rouse Company. But the fountain, I remember kids, we could go stand in the fountain and bathe in that fountain. You know which fountain I'm talking about? Down by the lake. You know where Whole Foods is? You go down those stairs and there's a fountain. So we used to, as kids, you know, we used to be able to bathe in the fountain. And yeah, I mean, I've swam in all the lakes in this area. They're dirtier now. They were a lot cleaner back then. So the path system has grown. You know, you got little signs. Before, you just had to know the paths, and we knew the paths because we would always be going out and going. You know, as kids, we were all over Columbia. Now it's a little bit dangerous. Parents don't let their kids go because they don't know. There's just more people and there's more unknown factors.
What made you live or work here? When did you decide that?
Well, I grew up here, so that wasn't my choice. That was my parents, who actually moved here because it was, you know, a new neighborhood, and it was very local to where my dad was working at NSA and my mom was working at NIH. So that was, you know, this was a good area to start a family. And, you know, I left for a while. It wasn't the greatest place to be a young adult, you know, in college. So I started traveling, lived abroad in a few countries, and then came back because it's so convenient here and it's so diverse. Like I grew up amongst, you know, a rainbow of people, and I would go to visit my cousins, and it was just like one color, one type of person. Even when I traveled abroad, you know, it wasn't, you know, maybe you had different shades of brown in the Americas. But, you know, growing up here, there was a little bit of everything. And so I grow up looking at people for who they are. And I think that's important. And the school systems were good. I got a job here, so that's really, that kind of what like helped me, you know, decide I was going to live here, because obviously you got to make a living. So when I graduated, I needed a job, and Howard County hired me. But it's, you know, we started a family here, and we decided to stay because it's just a place where you just meet so many different people. And so you don't see one type of person being better than another. You just see people for who they are, which is how I grew up. So it's weird when I go to other places because that mentality isn't the same. So growing up in Columbia, you really do have a diverse perspective if you really embrace that.
Going back on the comment that you said being a young adult here isn't so great. Why would you say that?
Well, it's the nightlife. I mean, when you're young, think about it. You know, you turn 18, you can start going to the clubs. Like, there's nothing here. I remember oh my God, there used to be this place over by where that Craig Northrop building is now, downtown Columbia. I think it's Craig Northrop, but it's that brown building. There used to be a club called Silver Shadows. Oh yeah. But there really just wasn't, there's not a nightlife for a young person. You either have to go to Baltimore, you have to go to DC, and there was no Uber back then. You know, you had to pay for a taxi if you couldn't drive home because you were out, if you were drinking or something. So that's, I mean, you know, is easier to, I mean, I lived in big cities when I traveled abroad. But, you know, when it's time to have your family, you're not, you don't do that party life anymore, or you're, you know, you have a little bit more money so you can pay for the taxis. But there's not as big of a nightlife, not like in the big cities or in college towns. So I feel like a lot of people, they leave Columbia, they go and, you know, go to college, and then they'll go live here or there. But then when it's time to raise a family, they come back because there's so many things that are offered for, you know, for kids, for the family. You know, you got a lot of different programs. It's so convenient here. We're close to everything. But at the same time, when you're a young adult, you just kind of want to have fun socially.
All right. Back to talking about schools. How would you describe the support given to each school with the Howard County? Would you say that schools in Howard County and Columbia are giving the same amount of support financially, and even with the amount of resources?
I think when we're talking about financial stuff, if we're looking from central office, they look at how many students are in the building, and then they divide funds like that. They look at how many kids have registered for classes, and they base staffing upon that, which I don't think benefits certain schools that have more needs or have different needs, like my school, Wild Lake. We have so many different needs that sometimes I feel having a little bit more teachers would help with some of the struggles or challenges that we have on both ends of the spectrum, as well as, you know, in the middle. But if we're talking about financial support from outside communities, I think it is not equal, nor is it equitable, because if we look at PTSA and boosters, the parents give in to that money. And so if you look at schools, I mean, just looking at their the free and reduced meals, the kids who get those, okay, we call them the farms is what the acronym is. Those schools that have a higher percentage of farm students probably are going to have parents who can't give a lot financially to the PTSA and boosters, versus schools who have, you know, kids come from families with two parents, or they both work, you know, you have a very low farms percentage, you know, those families possibly have more to give. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, they give more, but they have more. There are schools that earn a lot of money with boosters and PTSA, and they can do a lot more than like what we can do here at Wild Lake. I know I experienced it. I worked at a more affluent school, and I remember when they did the boosters always do a fundraiser in the spring. Well, the coaches and teachers got to go for free at that school because they had the money. But here, the coaches and the teachers have to pay because it's just too much. It's just too much money. I know so as far as that kind of funding, it's not equitable, it's not equal, it's not fair, because of the way, you know, the lines are drawn. So you have, you know, and I think one of the biggest tells is just the data is the farms. Look at the farms percentages, because that's all based on socioeconomic, which deals with money. And so, you know, you got your county, yeah, they'll give you some money, but then the outside of the county, all the other organizations, it's a lot harder to get money.
What changes can be made to improve the education our residents receive?
I think looking at the needs of every school and really try to get the appropriate number of staff, amount of staff that works with the kids. Some schools need smaller class sizes for different reasons. Some students need more assistance, so sometimes you need more help. I know, especially schools that have a lot of IEPs and 504s, and that's all over the county, but sometimes we need more reading specialists. We have a lot of kids who come into high school that aren't ready for, they can't read at grade level, and so we really should have more assistance. I'm not saying what we have doesn't work, but our teachers, they're spread thin, so if we really want kids to succeed, we really need to give them a little bit more, assistance and help from, here in school. Also, I think that I know the county's doing a good job at doing digital learning. So if you don't have enough staffing, kids can sit in a room on a computer and another teacher from another school is teaching. So you can still have the opportunity to take the class. I will say that's something the county has done, so kids aren't told, no, you can't take that class. We have the ARL program. I think that also, looking at the courses we offer, like the lowest math you can take coming into high school is Algebra 1. Well, some kids aren't ready for Algebra 1. They need a lower level math class. So it's like we're already setting them up to be frustrated and to fail. Like they can't do some basic stuff. So rather than saying, hey, you have to be here, kind of meet kids where they're at and really try to get them improved. I think I'm holding them accountable. I feel like we need to do a better job at that, academically as well as, non-academically. I think also looking at, I think we're doing a good job. There's a lot more that always can be done. And it seems to always fall under more staffing, which comes from more money.
So I hear you say holding kids accountable. I feel like that's a very interesting way to put it. What do you feel like is stopping that? Do you feel like it's parents or the school system won't allow you guys to do?
Well, kids are kids, right? I have 4. And I know that if you say this has to be done, and then it's not done and there's no consequence, then it's like, why should I do it? But if it's like, you have to be done, it has to be done by this time, or even giving leniency, but completing assignments, or just even behavior. I don't know, like both ends of the spectrum. When there's consequences or when there's accountability, just as with adults, you're not going to do something if, or you're going to do something depending on which way we're talking about. Just like as an adult, if someone says, at work, okay, we want you to take this survey, and then there was no follow-up, am I going to spend my time doing that? Because, as an adult, professionally, I'll do it. But these are kids we're talking about, so if there's no intrinsic motivation for them to do it, they're not going to do it. And, we're trying to teach them how to, you have a task, it has to be done, because if it's not done, the grade suffers, or the social life suffers, or activities suffer. And so, like I said, going back, they're kids. They need to be held accountable for what they're supposed to be doing. And if we don't, they're not going to do it, and then they're not going to learn how to be successful, after high school. You can't go to college and, just not do the work. You're going to fail. You're going to, and then you don't have your degree, and then you don't have the opportunity. And if you don't go to college, a lot of people go to trade school. In trade school, you still have to read and write and take tests, whether it's cosmetology, whether it's, mechanical or automotive. You still have to have those skills. However, I also think when we're going back to the question on what could we do better educationally, I think our kids don't understand, at least here, because we have so many kids whose parents didn't go to college, but we also do. they don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. Like, why are you here in school? Why are you like, yeah, opportunities, but what opportunities? So I think letting them see, like, there's these trade schools, there's this job, these colleges, like going to colleges, seeing, like, small groups do it, but sometimes I feel like the kids who aren't in those classes or clubs, they're the ones that we really need to show there's so much more that you can do, because I think they're just going through the motions. I know my husband and his cousins, they didn't have parents who went to college, so they didn't know what life was like. They just saw their parents, okay, they went and then they got, these, let's just, try to make a living type job. So holding the kids accountable, but also showing them why they're doing it. I think that's a missing piece, which, so it's hard to hold them accountable if they don't understand why, But I mean, does that answer your question?
It does, and like I can just tell from your passion, that you mean that.
I do.
I can tell.
My daughter is Howard County just started a NSBE chapter. NSBE is the National Society for Black Engineers, and I know that the two leaders are trying to. We have some Oakland Mills kids in it. There's some Appleton, some Marriott's Ridge. There's a girl who just started from Centennial. But my daughter's the only one from Wild Lake. So it was really hard. They've been trying to get the program here, and it's a college scholarship group, but they also compete in math competitions. They go to, like, right now they're in Detroit for a national conference, but it was so hard to get that outside organization to come in and do meetings here. So when they get back, I'm just going to start a Wild Lake club, the NSBE club, Wild Lake, and we'll have meetings on Saturdays, but everyone from the other schools are interested, because they go to colleges, they see these things, and that's what these kids need. That's what they need on any end. Like Mr. Blount started a I don't know if I should name drop. Sorry. We just started a step team. Well, a lot of the kids on the step team are they could be doing better academically. So I know he's looking into bringing those kids to some colleges that have step teams, and maybe they could do the college visits to see it's not just academics. Like, there's a social aspect to it, but you got to work to get there, and the rewards do pay off.
So the founder, Jim Browse, established Columbia, and he had 4 set goals for the community. Is to build a complete city, respect the land, provide a place for people to grow, and make a profit. With that being said, in what ways have the goals been met? Okay,
so the first one,
build a complete city.
Build a complete city. He did that. I think his original plan was 8 villages? I can't. The village of Oakland Mill. I can't. But I think it was 7 or 8 villages. And he did it. I think the River Hill was the last one, even though that's out in Clarksville. It's not Columbia. That was, I think, part of the. I believe that was the last one to have done. So you got Kings Control. So he did that. He did that, and within each village, his idea was to have a grocery store, like to have the village center. And he did that. Some, have been more successful than others. I think since Kimco took over Rouse Company, prices have gone up. So a lot of the old Columbia stuff has moved out, such as Bun Penny in the mall, and some other places. So he has done that. He's built his villages. He got the village, the shopping centers in each done. I know Wild Lake just is renovated. So goal 1, check. Goal 2,
respect the land.
I don't know how I feel about that, because there's been so much development now, so much so that we're seeing more flooding. And they've torn down, like, the whole Meriwether area where Symphony Woods has been torn down. It's just, like I said before, it's a concrete jungle down there, and I hate that. It used to be woods, and you can go down. So I don't know how that is respecting the land, but it ties into goal 4. They're making a profit off of what they're building. So goal 2, I know we're recycling, if we're talking about like protect the land as far as like the environment. I know we're recycling more. We're trying to be more environmentally friendly. I know we also have I believe that in the council, they were trying to pass like no plastic bags, or I'm not sure if it was plastic bags or straws. I can't remember. So I agree with that, because I've seen bags in oceans. I've seen pollution, in other countries. So, it's a little inconvenience with the first change, but then it just becomes part of your daily life. Although I hate paper straws because they get mushy. That's okay, and what was the goal 3 was?
Provide a place for people to grow, and just to make this more specific to one section, I know you said for young adults it might be different in this community, but how would you say for like adults that are actually here to find a job or any profession?
Oh, definitely. They built more apartments and condos. Columbia used to be pretty much all single family homes, townhomes for family, and then we have the lower income housing, or Section 8, or whatever the new word is, because that word always changes. But they have more apartments now for the younger business person who does work in DC or does work in Baltimore. They're done through that like young adult party stage, so there's more places for them to live, and they've got luxury apartments. That's a big change. We didn't have luxury apartments in Columbia about like 15, 20 years ago. Now we see a lot of luxury apartments. I used to live over by Guilford Elementary School, and Guilford Gardens was across the street, and that was some lower income mixture of apartments and townhomes. They knocked that down and built these really nice luxury apartments there. So there's more of that, but then again, like, what are they knocking down to put those there? Although Wild Lake put the new Alta apartments in, but nothing was there. It was just the old rundown center, so that was a good place. So I think they are attracting that the younger working single adult person now, and then eventually what I see from the people that I know is they come here. It's a young couple, and they just get a nice apartment, and then they start a family, and then they move into one of the neighborhoods because they like the area, because there's so much to offer from, I think from senior citizens all the way down to like the little programs that you have for mommies and daddies and infants. So lots of family communities. It's that like college age kid that doesn't want to be here. But I think that's with any town you grow up in. Like, they just want to be in a city where there's a lot of nightlife.
Yes.
And I don't want a lot of nightlife coming.
So this
I know.
So this kind of leads to the next question. How do you feel about the push for a more city-like downtown here in Columbia?
Well, when you say city life, like I know they're bringing the restaurants in. I mean, we have Merriweather. Like, are you talking like
what we were talking before, that
discotecas?
having that nightlife for young adults to actually have an experience here in the community and continue just having.
Well, I know there is some. Like, I know that new restaurant, the 18th, right on the corner of Broken Land and 175 Jim Ross Parkway, the Tucson Parkway, whatever that area is called. 18th and Cure, whatever. I know that they have Cured. They have like on Saturday or Friday night, don't they? Like, it's like they have it's like nightclub type life after something. There's some restaurants in Ocean City that I know. I'm in Ocean City.
Ocean City.
That's far. No, in Ellicott City. Like, I remember Lapa Lapa.
Oh yeah.
So they have Latin night. Well, Silver Shadows was there, but I mean, like, having like those kind of things, it's fine. But I don't know if we would want to put like a old Hammer Jacks or Tracks or like a big old, I don't know, what are the clubs now that are in Baltimore and DC? I'm dating myself. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like, having like the places that already exist. I know like Nottingham's. I know a lot of people go to Nottingham's, and sometimes they'll have the DJ. So yeah, I mean, I think you need that. I do go out sometimes, but as far as like having like the city where you have like 5 clubs in a row, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
What changes do you think needs to be made in order to improve the quality of the life in Columbia's residents?
The quality. Well, we have, like, if we're talking about health, we've got so many clubs. They're expensive. I'm not gonna lie. maybe lowering the price. But, you know, at the same time, I see where our money goes. Like we have, because if you live in Columbia, you pay an assessment fee, which is based on your, the property value. So it's like a tax without calling it a tax, so you can't write it off. But if you pay that fee, you still have to pay extra to belong to the Columbia gyms and the Columbia pools. Like, you can't even go to your neighborhood pool if you own a house in that neighborhood for free. You have to pay for a pool membership. So I think we do have, you know, so health and activity wise, we have a lot. We have the parks. You know what? I think Columbia and Howard County is doing a good job with that, because anytime someone says this doesn't exist and they want to get something started, it usually gets started if they want it to get started. You just got to put some effort. We have so many things. Like if you're interested in like hobbies, any hobbies that you have, Parks and Recs offers so many different affordable. They are affordable. I will say the Parks and Recs are affordable classes, from like kids all the way up to senior citizens, from crocheting to quilting to cooking to dancing. They have like meditation. There's so many different things for the mind, and you know, for the mind that we have. You know, talk about acupuncture, talk about yoga, talk about just the different there's just so much. I think we're doing a good job, you know, compared to other places that I know. We have a lot. If you want it, it's there, and if it's not there, which is rare, you can make it happen. You just have to communicate. I know the Rexham Park of Howard County definitely tries to put stuff out there that people want. And I see more and more stuff all the time. Like there's a superhero 1 mile walk run out in Glenwood. So you can go with your kids dressed up like superheroes for the day. That's fun, you know, and it's very family oriented as well. So, and they have groups like, so if you don't have like huge families, there's groups where you can like connect and you can like, you know, build your, I was going to say Columbia, everyone's connected somehow. That I will say that. So you'll go and you'll see someone and be like, hey, you know. So even though you may not have a big family, or even if you have a big family, there's more people out in the community that are like family.
And is there anything else you would like to tell us about Columbia and your experience here, and that you haven't covered already?
No, I think I've covered everything. I mean, it's a good area. It's there's a lot of traffic. I talked about the developing. There's a lot of traffic, and I live on a busy road, so it's gonna be interesting to see what they're gonna do. They need to stop building. There's just too much. You know, the green's going away. But other than that, I think we covered everything. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for having this time with us to interview you.
You're welcome.
And we really appreciate the knowledge that you've given us. So
Thanks
thank
for
you.
asking. Good luck.
Thank you.